Thank you very much. I'm here with Dr. Abhilash Panda, that is Deputy Chief for Europe and Central Asia from UNISDR, that is the agency that is following the disaster risk reduction strategy within the UN system. My name is Agostino Miozzo. I am Director General at the Italian Civil Protection Department. We are here to introduce the forum that will start from the 21st and will end on the 23rd this week, means day after tomorrow. And the forum that is a biannual forum organized by the UNISDR in this region that wants to discuss, to present the Sendai International Strategy for Disaster Risk Reduction. This year, Italy, and for Italy, the Italian Civil Protection Department is taking the responsibility to organize this event. And as I said, it will start day after tomorrow, Wednesday. The location will be the Confindustria headquarters at the EU. For this forum, we are expecting a great participation, more than 800 participants from 55 countries, all the European Union, plus East and Asian countries. There will be a number of authorities, political authorities, minister, vice minister, deputy minister, under secretary of state from many countries, and there will be a number of authorities responsible for the national disaster risk reduction, civil protection activities in their specific countries. The forum will have, as I said, 3 days. The first day will be a technical forum with some working groups that will meet to present the work that has been done in the last 2 years. And then Dr. Panda will be more precise on this first day. The formal inauguration, the opening of the forum will be on the 22nd at 9 o'clock. The Prime Minister of Italy, Mr. Conte, will be opening, and with the Prime Minister there will be other Italian political authorities, Minister Toninelli, the Deputy Foreign Minister, Mrs. Delle, and the Undersecretary at the Ministero dei Beni Culturali, Mr. Vacca, and probably other that are confirming their participation. After this official opening ceremony, we will continue. There will be plenary. There will be obvious a press conference with the Prime Minister and the Undersecretary, Special Representative of the Secretary General of the UN will be there and will accompany the Prime Minister Conte for the press conference. And then, obviously, we will continue with a number of events and panels and discussion that will last Friday afternoon, when we will have the closing ceremony. If you agree, I will leave Dr. Panda the responsibility to give some elements on the content, on the target, on the objective that we are willing to reach and to have for this relevant occasion, important occasion that we are hosting as Italian government and as Italian Civil Protection. Abhilash. Le serve? Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. On behalf of United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction It's a great honor to have Italy as the chair of the European Forum for Disaster Risk Reduction for 2018. As Mr. Miozzo mentioned, this is a biannual meeting of the governments and stakeholders. The last one was held in Turkey, and the one previous to that was in France. The primary purpose of the European Forum is to meet the UN General Assembly mandate of regional integrated platforms that look into resilience across all the domains and aspects in itself. Now, if I had to put a purpose or a reasoning behind it is, globally we are looking at almost $520 billion of losses because of disasters caused by natural hazards. Now, this leads to millions of displacement of people, but also taking those same people back to poverty. Within Europe, when it comes to the losses, it's predominantly economic losses. We don't see an increase in deaths or mortality, but it's primarily economic losses. And within the European configuration, it's Italy, France, and Germany which get the maximum impact of economic losses. Going all in the last 10 years, within these three countries, we have seen a loss of $140 billion. And these are US billion dollars. Translating it to euros, it could somewhere take us around 110, 120 billion euros in the last decade in itself. Now, the purpose of the European Forum is to foster and identify actions that will help in reducing these economic losses, but at the same time making sure that the prosperity of the nations is protected and continued. Because from the economic loss perspective, we do see that poverty could be coming back and people more at risks, vulnerable people more exposed to natural and climatic conditions. But at the same time, the actions that are predominantly with national and local governments need to beef up resilience and be more coherent in itself. So the three-day forum, as Mr. Miozzo mentioned, is going to run across from 21 November, which is this Wednesday, until 23rd November, which is a Friday. The first day predominantly focuses work around the Sendai framework focal points. Now, the Sendai framework is one of the 4 major international agreements that was agreed in 2015. This includes the Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Agreement, and the New Urban Agenda. So all 4 together form the 2030 Development Agenda, and each country has a Sendai framework focal point. So the 21 November is completely dedicated to the discussions of the national governments on the implementation of how they see implementation happening, the loss and damage data behind it, what they see as challenges or bottlenecks in reporting and implementation. Following the formal opening on 22nd and going all the way to 23rd, the forum will try to address some of the key issues. This includes sustainable financing. If you are following the EU mechanism on sustainable financing, it currently looks only into climate variability. But what we have realized, having discussed with member states, is sustainable financing is not just about climate impacts, but also it needs to include multi-hazard impacts in it. That is geophysical, that also it has to do with man-made and human-induced events that's possible. The 2 days will also look into something what we call the gray rhinos and the black swan events. This is purely an economic term, but increasingly hazards and impact of hazards have become gray rhinos and black swans, where it's unpredictable, where the capacity is not there in place to address some of these unpredictable events. And it will take into consideration the dimensions of heritage, the impact that's happening on cultural heritage that is immovable heritage that is implicit in nature, but also what does climate resilience actually mean from the perspective of natural and man-made hazards. Now, I would like to draw your attention that the discussion across the 2 days is not limited to hazards that are natural, but also hazards that are human-induced and man-made. That means technological disasters, industrial accidents, accidents that could expose cyber and security of countries in itself. With the chairmanship of Italy, we do expect that the 2 days would end with an agreement across member states and stakeholders in identifying potential high-value interventions that are to be implemented immediately or that have an implication in decision-making processes. Amongst others, there would be a high-level roundtable discussion, which is by invitation only for ministers, deputy ministers, state secretaries, under-secretaries, and heads of civil protection units across the member states who would agree on 2 or 3 actions that needs political push and the need for integrating into the across the EU dimensions in itself. So maybe I'll stop with that. And
I want to add a few words on what Abhilash said about economic losses, disaster. I just want to remember that in our country, Abhilash, Italy, in the last 10 years that you're mentioning, we had 4 earthquakes: L'Aquila, Emilia-Romagna, Ischia, and the Central Italy earthquake in 2016. And we had a huge number of catastrophic floods, landslides, and last but not least, and relevant even for this discussion, is the bridge Morandi in Genova disaster that opened, let's say, a new era of monitoring the aging of the infrastructure that will enter. And the Morandi bridge will enter as discussion within the forum, because we have realized that we need to take care even about our old infrastructure, the aging of infrastructure, and that we need to take care about the fact that infrastructure as well as the environment needs care and needs monitoring, needs investment that are obligatory. Very little add to the forum. Out of the forum building, we have installed a very interesting occasion that we invite all of you to visit. There will be an exhibition on the earthquake history in Italy, and within the exhibition there will be a shaking table that simulates the earthquakes. And I would really advise all of you to test the perception that you may have on a table when they will simulate, for example, the earthquake in L'Aquila, the earthquake in central Italy in 2016, and you will realize what it means to live at the 5th floor of a building during the earthquake. It is really a very, I would say, dramatic to a certain extent experience. That's it. We are here to answer to your question, if any. Se avete bisogno un riepilogo in italiano lo faccio senza difficoltà. Prego. No, la piattaforma è del Dipartimento della Protezione Civile e abbiamo realizzato con le istituzioni nazionali, l'INGV, l'Istituto Nazionale di Geofisica e Vulcanologia, con la tecnologia, è una tecnologia italiana ed è una piattaforma che esportiamo, trasferiamo in tutta Italia, l'abbiamo portata a Bruxelles, è il simulatore che utilizziamo soprattutto nei percorsi di informazione, di formazione e di cultura di protezione civile. Invitiamo le scuole, invitiamo i cittadini a sperimentare il terremoto. Non è un giocattolo, non è un Luna Park particolare, è una sperimentazione, e devo dire che anche se emozionante e per certi aspetti divertente, però nel momento in cui la inquadri in un contesto storico, nella possibilità reale che quello che stai provando può succedere in 3/4 del territorio italiano, devo dire che le persone che sperimentano escono in qualche modo turbate, perché si rendono conto di cos'è il dramma di un terremoto, di che cosa significa, che cosa significano 20 secondi, 30 secondi di un terremoto che scuote, che potrebbe scuotere casa tua. I'm talking about the shaking, the shaking table that we have installed and we will test during the exhibition, during the forum. Prego.
Parlerà della campagna Diamoci una scossa? C'è legato?
Si parlerà, Diamoci una scossa è una delle campagne nazionali che il sistema di protezione civile alimenta, sponsorizza, sostiene. Di fatto Diamoci una scossa entra perfettamente nei contenuti di questo forum, perché il forum in pratica è un forum che dice diamoci una scossa a livello universale, e quindi è bellissima la presentazione di questo nostro esercizio, diamoci una scossa, e devo dire che i contenuti di questo forum sono diamoci una scossa politica, una scossa tecnica, una scossa di comprensione di ciò che significa il rispetto dell'ambiente, la preparazione, la resilienza. È questo l'obiettivo del forum, far capire a livello internazionale che o ci prepariamo o ci prepariamo. Se non ci prepariamo dobbiamo subire, e le cifre che Abhilash ha dettato, i miliardi di dollari a cui io aggiungerei le migliaia, decine, centinaia di migliaia di vittime, o impariamo a governarle, oppure gli eventi estremi a cui ci stiamo abituando ci supereranno di fatto, se non saremo in grado di prepararci agli eventi estremi.
Do you sense that there's a greater sense of urgency around this forum amongst the governments attending, given the IPCC report that came out a few weeks ago, and also obviously the various security technological impacts that Europe is sensing from the various parties?
Thank you for your question. Now, we do definitely see a sense of urgency, not just now, but it has been there for a while. It always depends what has happened in a country, or how do you actually see the impacts of a particular event. What we are increasingly seeing is the interconnectedness of various risks. The previous architecture of disaster risk reduction, or even climate architecture, was based around the notion that these are standalone processes. But if you look closely what's happening, not just in Europe but across the globe, they're all slowly starting to get interconnected. Food scarcity, for example, food security, for example, it's no more just related to agriculture production or patterns, but it's between what's happening in the climate environment and how it's exposing the urban environment to go for exodus is going to slowly start creating impact on aging infrastructure. For example, in Europe, there is this issue of increased elderlies, there is more huge proportion of elderlies in the society, in the community, which you don't see in Asia or Africa or Latin America. Now, that brings a lot of social pressure on the civil protection and also on the medical services. Are the governments ready? I don't know if the governments are ready, but this is a issue that's slowly creeping in, and we are pretty sure governments are looking at it closely on how do we address these things. When you compare the regional continent, there is a wide difference when you compare it with the Eastern Central Europe compared to the Western Europe and so on and so forth, because there are cities which are already urbanized. They have already created the risks that they could have addressed. But there are also cities which are completely now getting de-urbanized because there is no job market, there is no livelihood, and they are moving somewhere else. With that, they're creating new risks where you're adding new people and population to it. So yes, there is, in short, there is a sense of urgency. Whether there is a sense of, the question that still lingers out is, how do you actually address this? Is it just the civil protection, or is it the larger mechanism of governance that needs to address these things now?
One more.
Just also in the context of the EU budget that's going to be negotiated, he decided this is such a crucial time for the forum, I can imagine. Are you hoping that something out of the forum quite strong will come out of the forum to influence that discussion?
I mean, definitely, as the current discussion that's happening in Brussels is more geared towards climate impacts, things which we definitely agree that there is a lot of resources that needs to be put forward to that on that topic. But in the process, let's not forget that there is this huge other risks that we have already accumulated that we cannot forget. I'm pretty sure that the outcomes or the discussions that will happen across member states during the high-level roundtable or within the panels does provide a pretty strong narrative on why those resources need to be retained or increased. Whether it's within the adaptation portfolio or is it increasing the portfolio on disaster prevention and risk reduction, that is not something that matters much, but it's the need of having those resources in place. And I'm pretty sure Italy as the chair will be driving those outcomes into the discussions that takes place in Brussels or Strasbourg in that.